begin. Yep. Senator Merkley.
Thank you very much, Chair Graham. And I'm going to start with Merkley Amendment number 1. And this amendment takes us back to the original purpose of reconciliation. In 1974, all 100 senators of the U.S. Senate agreed to create a filibuster-free pathway for one purpose: reducing the deficit. Now, during the debate that we had earlier today, I heard a lot of colleagues across the aisle say they're all for reducing the deficit. I put up a chart that showed under every single Republican administration, the deficits increase year after year, and under every Democratic administration, they decreased every year. So let's match the rhetoric with the act. Let's put the walk into the talk and restore the principle that reconciliation is to either create a deficit neutral, that is not increase the deficit, or better yet, decrease the deficits rather than to increase them. So this amendment simply restores that vision. It's consistent with what Chairman Graham has said he wants to do with this reconciliation bill.
Senator Kennedy? Senator Kennedy?
I have a question.
Okay.
And I ask this gently and with great respect. If this is such a swell idea, why didn't you propose it under the Biden administration when my Democratic colleagues used reconciliation?
Yes. So the history of this is that it was changed in 1996. The principle of all 100 senators voting for reconciliation to only decrease the deficit was in 1974, and then it held for 22 years. But in 1996, the Bush administration wanted to do a significant set of tax reductions and decided they couldn't get them passed with Democratic support, so they would do it by themselves. And so the majority leader at that time, Robert Dole, put into the parliamentary position Robert Dove, who had worked for Dole, and the parliamentarian delivered a ruling completely out of sync with the history of reconciliation and said, oh, you know what? Even though it's not in the law, even though it was all about deficit reduction, we're going to allow deficit increases if they're for taxes. Well, and the Republican majority proceeded to affirm that. This was called a nuclear option, exercised in 1996. Now, Kent Conrad, when he was chair of this committee, repeatedly, every single time he was able, he put the Conrad rule back in place. Since then, we've had multiple Republican tax bills that have gone through this committee, increasing the deficit, but we've also had one Democratic bill that increased the deficit. That was the American Rescue Plan. That is the on and only time the Democrats increased the deficit, and that was because of response to the challenge we faced with COVID and the collapse of the economy.
But my question remains, why didn't you want to make this change when you guys were in the majority under President Biden?
And to my colleague, I can't be in, I wasn't in charge of this committee, so I can't speak to the details. I don't know the answer. I do know the only time the Democrats used reconciliation that increased deficit was the American Rescue Plan, and that was because the economy was in dire condition due to the collapse caused by COVID.
All right, thank you. And along with what Senator Kennedy said, the last Congress, you passed 2 reconciliation bills that blow up the deficit. The American Rescue Plan, as you indicated, increased the deficit by $2 trillion. CBO and the Joint Committee on Taxation badly underestimated the cost of the Inflation Reduction Act's green energy tax credits, which now are expected to cost over $1 trillion by some estimates. Republicans' border reconciliation bill is going to be fully paid for, so this amendment is unnecessary. Thank you very much.
But totally consistent with the chairman's vision.
There you go. Next. Well, I thought we were going to stack them.
We are stacking. Yeah, just reiterating at the end.
Time has expired on debate for the amendment. A recorded vote will be taken at the agreed upon time.